Welcome to another episode of Video Store Rejects. This is a podcast where we discuss directors' filmographies and our favorite film franchises. I'm your host, Cody House. I have a returning guest and friend, Mr. Justin Doyle. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Always a pleasure. Glad you could make it. Since I got COVID a couple of months ago and had to reschedule, so a lot of these episodes are coming not in order anymore, and sometimes we're doubling up like we are today. We're doubling up with the two filmmakers we've been talking about their filmographies, and because it's spooky season, I figured it was a good time to talk about Joel Coen's recent film, The Tragedy of Macbeth. And we're also going to be discussing Ridley Scott bringing Cormac McCarthy's his one screenplay to the big screen, The Counselor. And which one of these ones you want to tackle first?
Why don't we start with, I guess, what you call a spooky movie, The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not spooky in like what we consider now like Halloween horror fare, but it does deal with witches and curses and all those, and the atmosphere is spooky, usually with an adaptation of this story or play. Of course, this play is infamous because it's considered cursed itself even when you're making it, and in theater standards you can't even say the name Macbeth if you're not doing the show. Like, you've cursed the theater, you've cursed whatever production you're working on by even mentioning the name.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely something that goes around the actors world, saying that stuff. But I mean, come on, this can't be true.
Oh, well, okay. I'm not one that's like, oh yeah, this stuff, but I tell you what, we in college, I directed a show that was like scenes from Shakespeare for our theater history class.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the scene, the witch scene, where Macbeth visits the three sisters. And one of the actors, like, I don't believe in this curse. This all blah, 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 blah. They ended up spraining their ankle while we were in rehearsals. Our stage manager got kicked out of school, and we had to recast another actor because they stepped down from the role. So,
Oh boy.
what?
Oh, what a coincidence.
But this is an interesting film because it's the most recent film in their filmography, but it's not the Coen brothers. It's just Joel Coen. After Buster Scruggs came out, or not that long after, I believe in 2019, it was announced that Joel Coen was going to do a version of Macbeth with Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand, which is great casting, but mentioned no Ethan Coen. Ethan apparently stepped down, didn't want to do movies anymore, wanted to focus on theater, what he got his degree in. But now I've heard that Ethan Coen is developing a movie on his own too.
Interesting.
But yeah,
You always go back to movies.
Yeah, what do you think of Mr. Joel Coen's version of this story that's been done quite a bit, even on film?
Yeah. Well, one of the gentlemen we'll be talking about later in The Counselor did a version of it, right? Fassbender, didn't he do
Oh,
a
that's
Macbeth?
right. Fassbender was in a version. I have not seen that one, but it seems like
Me
that should
neither.
be interesting. It's him and Marion Cotillard.
Yeah, yeah, should be interesting. So this one, it's so hard with Shakespeare. It's hard, you don't understand what they're saying most of the time. It's tough to follow the story. It's hard to know what the story is sometimes. So it was nice to watch it again at home and be able to read along with it with subtitles. So then, you can kind of understand a little bit more. You're like, oh, that was the word that they said, not, some gibberish that you think that it is. I like that it's all gray style, black and white, gray instead of color. I like that the production design of this movie I had mentioned when it came out, it was one of my favorites of the year as far as production because it's all built. It's not it's on all on a sound stage, so um,
Mhm.
which is very very old school style making of movies. And yeah, the performances are really really good as well. I like seeing other colored people in movies like this because you never see a black person in a Shakespeare movie, and yeah, so it's good to see the lead black, but also lots of other characters in the movie are black.
Yeah, you have Corey Hawkins play Macduff, and you have a couple of other actors of color popping in here and there. And what's interesting with this adaptation is all the actors of color are American, and normally when you do see actors of color in a Shakespeare adaptation, they're usually British.
Definitely, yeah.
And Denzel's
Um,
no stranger to Shakespeare. Like, he was in Much Ado About Nothing. He very famously played the lead on Broadway in Julius Caesar. So this is nothing new for the man to be delving into Shakespeare.
yeah. Well, also with Shakespeare, I noticed that this happens a lot in movies in adaptations is when they're saying the words because again, it's not the language that we're used to anymore. There's a lot of like head shaking. So Denzel's like, "Thine eye will be what it was never supposed to be," and it was always a lot of head shaking from everybody, from all the actors and stuff. And I think that's another way to convey emotion, with the words that we don't really have emotional ties to anymore.
For sure. And I think another thing that's interesting about the acting and just the film itself for a director such as Joel Coen, who's a very cinematic person in how he constructs scenes and shoots them. I mean, the cinematography definitely feels cinematic, but this is very theatrical just from them shooting this on a sound stage, the actors' performances, not just them reciting the lines, but just like their mannerisms. And it's a little bit more over the top than you would see in a movie because theatrical acting is a little more over the top.
Hmm.
And really, for a distinctive visionary director such as Joel Cohen, it's like he was just like, it's just Shakespeare. It's the show. Like it's just he just got a bunch of really good actors and let's do a Shakespeare show.
Yeah. Shot during pandemic or
Mhm.
after the start of it. So they bubbled up and shot it in 36 days. And yeah, just kind of had the people who were there uh, just be that, they lived in the bubble. So they all hung out for that for a couple months and filmed this up. Garnered some nominations.
Yeah, actor for Denzel, production design and cinematography, I believe,
Yep.
which those are all three deserving.
Yep.
I do think it's interesting that he does cast Denzel and Frances McDormand, not because they can't do it, because they are both great actors and they're
Hmm.
definitely capable of portraying and doing these performances as they're shown. And I believe Frances McDormand even played this part on stage before, but they're a little bit older than what the characters are supposed to be in the show. Like, I think in the actual play, they're young, but they're often usually people in their late 30s or in their 40s, usually, is
Hmm.
how they're portrayed. So it's like a different kind of take on the characters instead of them wanting to like move up because it's deserved. It's more like, oh, we've been in this role our whole lives. Now it's time for us to get our paid dues.
Hmm. Yeah. Did you like them together? Such an interesting pair.
It is. I loved it. I thought they were great together because in my opinion they're two of the best actors of their generation.
Hmm.
So it's not a shock that they work well together because they're just I mean, Denzel is probably my favorite movie star. He almost always makes a movie at least interesting. Even if it doesn't completely work as a movie, I'm at least engaged while he's on screen.
Yeah, like the little things.
Yeah, that movie, why I enjoy it is because of him. Like, I'm like, all right, Denzel doing his cop thing. You know, I'm in. Like, it's not that great of a movie, but because he's the lead, I'm like, this is watchable.
Mhm. Yeah, and if he's in it, that means there's something about it that he saw that he knows, he can elevate to a certain level. Um, which is this too. Tragic, like you can't get a bigger name to try to do some Shakespeare, as far as a modern actor now.
Yeah, I can't because I mean, there are other actors you might think of to play this role. People would think, well, what about Kenneth Branagh? But we've seen Kenneth Branagh do Shakespeare so many times. Like, of course it'd be okay, but like, you know, I like to see different people, and especially because the only other movie he was in was Much Ado, which was Kenneth
Yeah.
Branagh. But like,
Yep.
yeah, it kind of brings a certain probably audience that might not normally watch this because of him too.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it had other elements of trying to get people to watch it too. It's an A24 movie, so that's
Mhm.
already you're gonna get that crowd of people to go see it. And then you also Apple TV Plus, you put it out on Apple TV Plus as well as in theaters, and you're gonna have more eyes on it because Shakespeare is just really hard to try to get people to watch. And because if you don't know what's going on, it's kind of boring, you know?
It's true. If you don't, and look, I know like you don't always get all the words or dialogue that's said, but if you can follow the plot, then you're okay because you can get what's happening without understanding every word that's being said. I mean, it's not much different from watching a international film that you're having to read the subtitles.
Yeah, exactly.
You just got to stay a little more locked into the movie than like, oh, let me look at my phone for a minute because
Yes. Yeah. You gotta be paying attention or else it's just gonna slip on by you. Because the words and the action on screen actually does meld well together. That it's for a purpose. It's not just dialogue between two people. What they're saying is, yeah, for something, which which we'll talk about more in the counselor.
yeah.
um,
But I know people probably thought this was strange, like, why is he doing a Shakespeare adaptation? But if you look at the plot of Macbeth, it's very similar to what most Coen Brothers movies plots are about. It's about people making horrible, bad decisions and things just getting worse and worse and worse for them.
yeah,
And that's what
yeah,
happens in Macbeth. It's
mm,
same thing that happens in Fargo and No Country for Old Men. Like so many of their movies, it's like the rules of karma exist in their world,
oh
and
yeah,
it comes back to you tenfold.
yeah. We have some previous Coen brother players in this movie. Not only Francis McDormand, but
Stephen
uh,
Root,
yeah, Stephen Root. I loved his character, albeit very
right?
small.
It
Yeah,
was probably the only level of brevity and humor that's in the movie.
yeah, and he killed it. It was
And
so
I don't
funny.
even remember if that character or that part is supposed to be funny in the play or that's just Stephen Root's, talent as an actor doing that.
Yeah, I think it's the talent of the actor. But also Harry Melling was in Ballad of
Right.
Buster Scruggs.
That's right. He's in that Liam Neeson segment.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I think that's it. There's not a lot of Cohen regulars in this one.
Yeah. Um, also, this was the first time, it says right here, the first time that an actor's been nominated for a Shakespearean role since Henry V in '89.
Yeah, that's wild that it
Yeah,
took that long, which if you haven't seen Henry V, it's a phenomenal film and
I
sees
have
why
not seen
Kenneth
it.
Branagh was kind of elevated early on in his career.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, he still sticks around in that genre a lot. I mean, even
Well,
if it's not Shakespearean, per se, it's definitely British,
I'm pretty sure that's why they hired him to direct the first Thor movie was because of his background in Shakespeare.
Yeah, probably. There's also some Harry Potter crossover in here,
Yep,
not only with
we've
Harry Melling, but Brendan Gleeson.
and I forget the actress's name that plays the witches, but she is phenomenal. She's probably my favorite performance in the movie. Like those scenes are just
She
amazing.
is the best part. She like can bunch herself up into this sort of weird ball. Her name's Catherine Hunter, but she was also in the Harry Potter series.
Yeah, I think she's more of a television and stage actress primarily,
Mm,
but she's just yeah, she's just great in this. And like those scenes are disturbing and
so disturbing.
breathtaking and like the use of light and shadow in those scenes, like it's atmospheric and spooky. Like it they do it really well.
Yeah, actually, when that character of the witch came around was the first time that I started to feel engaged with the movie. Yeah, it was like, oh, where is this going, and why is it going this way? Um, who's the other person? There's one more. Oh, Ralph Ineson. He played Amicus Caro in Deathly Hallows Parts 1 and 2. Ralph
Wh-
Ineson.
Who is he in
Do you know who?
Macbeth? I'm trying to
I mean, yeah, I don't know. He's not on the top list of like 20 or whatever. Let's see if I can find him.
because yeah, I don't remember.
He played the captain.
All right, let me
Uh,
see because I'm like,
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. He's also in The Green Knight, Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Oh, so
he's another
uh,
Cohen brother
mm,
actor they've
uh-huh.
used.
Guardians of the Galaxy. He was in The Northman this year.
Oh, that's cool.
Gunpowder Milkshake. We've seen him a lot,
He's
but
just
I
one of
never
those
knew his name.
guys. Yeah.
Ralph Ineson. Brendan Gleeson and Denzel were in a movie together.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what it's
Is
called?
it is it Safe House? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's called Safe
Oh,
House.
yeah, I do know this guy. I think he's in The Witch too.
Yeah, he's in The Witch.
So that makes sense that he's in The Northman. I don't remember who he is in Harry Potter though.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. He was just in the last two apparently, but
Yeah, I always forget his name, but yeah, he has a really cool voice.
hmm hmm yeah, this movie's it's interesting. I really just the production really gets me, and I think the old school sort of vision of it all really gets me because I don't know, it's tough to do a Shakespeare film, it's tough to do something in black and white, and it's tough to do something all on a soundstage nowadays, but I think the Cohen pulled it off.
Yeah, I think, I guess there could be criticism of this movie as it doesn't feel like a Cohen brother movie or a Cohen film. And you probably wouldn't be wrong. It is missing those idiosyncrasies that are usually in their movies. But like I said, I think the plot is very much something that they're drawn to. And I think maybe he just wanted to stretch his muscles as a director and see, like, it's all well done. It's just, if you would say, "Oh, this doesn't," I could understand that criticism if you said this doesn't feel like a Cohen movie because there's not really their voice in it. But I think maybe he just wanted to stretch himself and he was like, well, this is something I know my wife can do. So I want to work with her. And
Yeah.
yeah, opportunity to work with Denzel because that's an actor they've never worked with before.
Yeah.
It's a really well done production of Macbeth. I mean, yeah, we've seen it before. We'll see it again because that's the nature of Shakespeare. These things get adapted over and over again.
Hmm.
Do you think that's why it kind of didn't get a lot of representation at the Academy Awards?
I don't know actually. I think it's all the accolades that it sort of got was, fair enough. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just too old school sort of Hollywood creation. Um, because the movies like these normally now are on a grander scale. You're going to spend millions
Mhm.
of dollars by actually filming in a castle, by actually having thousands of real soldiers, extras. But this was obviously very condensed, very confined, all shot indoors and made and created with light and darkness. Um, so maybe that's the reason why. But I mean, it's a great little movie. I mean, it's only an hour and 45 minutes, which is great. For a movie like this, normally it's going to be two and a half, and you're like, oh my gosh. So this is yeah, perfect length, really just condensed version of the epic tale, I think.
Yeah, I also say that it's like a really well done production of Shakespeare in the Park because it does feel like I'm watching a stage production,
Hmm.
just really well shot. Like they got like a really good camera person to shoot the recording. But and maybe that is another reason it just didn't feel cinematic enough, or maybe it's like we've been there, done that.
Hmm.
And maybe there were just some other things they liked more, like they wanted to highlight Nightmare Alley more because it felt more cinematic, or West Side Story, or I'm trying to think of some other things that got nominated that might have taken Macbeth's spot. But I'm not upset that it didn't get in the best picture or best director race, honestly. Um I guess Frances McDormand missed out, but I mean she's got 3 Oscars, so I guess it's okay she didn't get nominated for this
She
time
won.
around.
She won two a year ago. The year before.
Yeah. Oh, was she
Other,
also a producer on Nomadland?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, so she has 4 Oscars.
because she won for Fargo and then Three Ebbing, Nomadland. Yeah, she beat Meryl, or she's tied with Meryl in the actor category, but she does have more Oscars than Meryl does. So.
So she's tied with Katharine Hepburn.
Other movies nominated last year. Let's see if any of them are better than Tragedy Macbeth. King Richard.
Uh, it's more of an Oscar movie. I like King Richard, I didn't love it. It's probably about on the same. I probably would rate these 2 about the same on a
Totally.
rating. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Speaking of the man behind Shakespeare, Belfast.
It's fine. It is good, but I did not love it. I would have been okay if they took but Belfast was like a guaranteed one to get in.
Yeah,
Like, but I'm not in love with that movie as a lot of people are.
yeah. It was, to me, kind of fell flat. The performances were great.
Yeah.
Uh, Licorice Pizza.
I could have lived without that one being in, but I guess there's a little more nostalgia for that one because it's about like a time period people grew up in and it's also set in Hollywood. It's fun, but I don't think it's one of PT's best movies. It's like got
Yeah.
segments of greatness. Like my favorite part is the Bradley Cooper segment.
Oh yeah.
And then I like the Sean Penn, Tom Waits stuff, but like it feels more like a series of vignettes than like a whole movie.
Yeah, I mean it was a Paul Thomas Anderson, it was his childhood, and he probably put 3 or 4 of his summers together into one movie and made it seem like it was one summer, you know?
I think it's loosely based off a movie producer's life too that like kind of helped get Tom Hanks's career started. It's like Gary I forget his name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't based off of Paul Thomas Anderson's life?
I think there's shades of it, but like PT would have been really young to be nostalgic for this time period because he was born in 70. So he would have
Okay.
been a small child or a baby. I forget what year this takes place, but you know.
Mm. The Power of the Dog.
That was gonna get nominated, and it is an incredibly gorgeous looking movie, and it's well directed. I think it deserved it. Maybe not my personal favorite, but I can see the craftsmanship in that film for sure.
It's the tragedy of Macbeth, but in color, you know,
Yeah.
and outside. Like it's kind of like the same sort of feeling.
And I think it's making more of a commentary on things that relate more to a modern society, even though it's set in early 20th century.
Mhm. It was a good
Plus,
movie.
it's got that wild ending, so I think the ending alone like gave it some notches.
Very well directed, very well acted. That movie. West Side Story.
Yeah, Spielberg was like, "Yeah, I can do a musical. Look, I just did a musical and it's amazing. And I just did a better version than the original, which is considered one of the best movies to ever win an Oscar."
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
that's amazing that he was able to do that and make it fresh and relevant to like today's times, even though it's set in the early 60s, late 50s.
Don't Look Up.
Uh That one probably could have not been in there, but the people that love it, love it. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle on that movie. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it like a lot of other people hated it. I think there's some really good satire in there. Just I actually prefer Adam McKay's straight comedies to his more political movies that he's been doing.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Or just give us a non-political drama or something, you know? Like,
But I
I
can
wonder if that.
definitely feel like maybe some people were not ready for that because it's definitely a take on like COVID anxieties, even though it's about climate change. Like, I think maybe some people felt like I'm not ready to like laugh at this stuff yet.
Mm-hmm. Nightmare Alley.
I loved Nightmare Alley. I thought it was incredibly well done, well shot.
It
I was
was the one
shocked
that
it actually
was,
got in.
yeah, it was the one we were all scared that wasn't gonna get in, and it did. Dune.
I like Dune a lot. I knew it was going to get nominated. It's a well shot movie, and we'll see how part two plays. Because if part two really works, I might like part one more. Because I think that's part of my issue. Is I feel like it's just half a movie. Like
Yeah,
it ends abruptly.
yeah, makes you want more.
Yeah, but it's
Maybe
a beautiful looking movie, and it deserved all the accolades it got. Did
maybe this is why, because West Side Story, Nightmare Alley, Dune are all remakes.
they thought
Maybe
that's
they
enough
couldn't put
remakes?
another. Yeah, they couldn't put another remake in there. They're like, no tragedy, because the other two movies left are Drive My Car.
Oh, I love that movie, and that was another one that we didn't think was gonna get in the race for Best
Well,
Picture.
Right, it was a shoo-in for a win for Best International for sure, but yeah, for Best Picture, it was a, Parasite sort of situation.
Yeah, but it didn't quite have the same uh mainstream appeal that Parasite got.
Sure,
But
yeah.
Parasite's more of a genre movie that people can be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is a thriller slash dark comedy." Whereas Drive My Car is like a very deep meditational drama, and they're doing a Chekhov play. It's not
Mm,
exactly mainstream appeal. And if people say this is a slow burn, I'm like, yeah, it's a slow burn. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing, though.
no, yeah, and that burn was really good, you know?
If I was shocked I liked it as much as I did, because if you told me it's a 3-hour movie about a dude who can't drive his car and he's directing a Chekhov play for Japan, I'd have been like, I don't know, that doesn't sound like, but I was totally into the movie with the
Yeah,
characters.
yeah, it worked, and then the winner, Coda.
Coda. I think it's a charming, delightful movie, and I think, there may be think pieces in about a decade, like, do people even remember this movie? There probably will be that, but I think people wanted this kind of movie, a crowd-pleasing movie that made you feel good, especially after the last 2 years of the world, I think that's what got its motivate momentum to win.
Mhm. So which movie would you replace if you were to tragedy Macbeth with?
I don't know if Tragedy Macbeth deserves to be in there, but if I was going, there are some I would take out.
Yeah.
And I would probably take out either Licorice Pizza or King Richard
Mhm,
on that list.
mhm. Belfast,
Oh, yeah, Belfast actually would be the first one I'd take out.
and Don't Look Up.
And those are yeah, those are the four. The
By
rest
the way,
that leaves
yeah.
6. The rest of the 6 are, maybe I don't love all those movies, but those are all movies I think deserve recognition.
On the tomato meter, Drive My Car is number 1, then Coda, Power of the Dog, West Side Story, Licorice Pizza, King Richard, Belfast, Dune, Nightmare Alley, and Don't Look Up. Oh,
Well,
but
don't
while I'm here, go ahead.
but yeah, Don't Look Up was the one that kinda was like, the critics didn't really like it, but I think the industry liked it because that does happen sometimes.
Mhm.
They don't always align with each other, and it did surprisingly well on Netflix, like, a lot of people watched it. Of course, it
Oh,
doesn't hurt
yeah.
that you have a bunch of movie stars in the movie.
Well, it came out during Christmas,
Uh-huh.
so, that Netflix had a big movie, Disney Plus had a big movie, Apple TV Plus had a big movie, so that was Netflix's big movie. Tragedy Macbeth on Rotten Tomatoes is 93% with 75% audience score, 7.1 on IMDb, and then, because pandemic and Apple TV Plus release, its worldwide gross was $524,000.
Oh, wow. That is really
Yeah.
low. I mean, this movie wouldn't have made that much more had it had a full theatrical run, because this would have
Yeah.
only played in, like, smaller theaters or in big cities. So, I'm I have, mixed emotions on these streaming movies. I mean, I think it does a great job of getting these kind of movies out to people like me who don't have a way to see these movies unless, they decide to play them in a theater, and it's usually because they get big Oscar nominations. Like, I woulda had to wait till it was available digitally to rent, to stream, or Redbox it, like, so.
Because you don't have, like, art house places near you.
No, we don't live in a large enough area for that sort of thing, so, like, it has to get some sort of do really well or get some big word of mouth to show up at a multiplex, because that's all we have around here is, like, multiplexes. We don't have, yeah, an art house theater that would show this type of movie, so And another thing for filmmakers like Coen and Joel Coen and David Fincher, Jane Campion, like, they get an unlimited budget. They don't have to worry about the returns of the movie,
Mhm.
so they get to be in charge of the movie without anyone interfering with them. Because the streaming service, they're like, "Yeah, make your movie." That's
Mhm.
part of what we want is the prestige, and honestly, Netflix wants that Oscar, which, it's kinda I wonder how they feel about Apple beating them to winning the first Best Picture. But I think Coda
What?
would have done well in
Oh,
theaters.
Coda, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
I saw
it
it in theaters.
so it's kinda I
What did
guess
I?
Apple just gave them the best deal. So
Mm.
but,
Netflix didn't win for Roma or anything like that?
Roma won Best Director. Remember, that's the year Green Book won Best Picture.
Yeah?
Yeah, Roma won Best International Film, though.
Oh,
So
right.
so they haven't yet won that Best Picture. Netflix wants that Best Picture win, which I don't think White Noise is gonna get, and even if Glass Onion somehow gets a Best Picture nomination, it's not gonna win.
Oh my god, you're absolutely right. Apple was the first streamer to win the coveted Best Picture award.
Mhm.
Wow.
But, well, I wouldn't put this in, like, the top 10 of Coen Brothers movies. I mean, it's an impeccably beautifully shot, well done production of Macbeth because of
Mhm.
all the talent involved. So it's a solid movie. It may not be
Yeah.
a great movie, but it's solid and it's really well done. But what are you gonna do? It's Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand. Of course, it's gonna be watchable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, I don't even yeah, I wouldn't even say it's a bad movie. I think it's a
No,
great
not at all. It's
film.
it's
Yeah.
solid. It is at least a 3.5 B plus type of movie, if not an A minus.
Yeah. I wonder what
Yeah.
I gave it back in the day when I rated it. Can't
But that
remember them all.
but that's cool that you got to see it in the theaters and then, watch it at home and get different experiences, but still enjoy the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a
Is
little easier to take in at home.
is there anything else you wanted to bring? Because I know this was one you were like, "I'll do." Was this more like, "Oh, nobody wants it," or did you really wanna, like, unpack on this
Well, just
one?
just rewatching again and talking about it, helps you appreciate a movie more than, just letting it be what it was. So, like, watching it the first time, I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty solid." And then I think I liked it better this time around. Again, understanding what was going on more and, yeah, just focused into, um, the actual dialogue instead of, like, enjoying the production and the acting and, being distracted about being in black and white or whatever, so, uh no, you get to appreciate a movie more on a second viewing or hate it more on a second viewing, but I
I
appreciated it more.
9 times out of 10, unless it's just a really awful movie, I usually get more out of it after I rewatch it and it definitely helps with these type of conversations to kinda unpack. Because sometimes hearing somebody else's take on a movie will increase your, love or appreciation for something too,
Mhm.
because you're getting a different perspective than your own. But yeah, I think if this was somebody else's filmography, this would probably be one of their better movies, but because it's the Coens, they have so many great movies, it's kinda just like, "That was good, that was really good," but it was a nice
Yeah.
experiment.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, you would never guess that this is a Coen Brothers movie, and I think for the first time out doing, something alone, I think this Coen did a really good job.
I'm interested to see what happens next in their careers now, like, what they do, like, are we gonna get more movies? Do you think this is the end? I know, they're in their late 60s now, so I don't know. This is the 19th feature film. Like, they really don't have to make more if they don't want to, but I don't know. We'll see, I guess, what they decide to do.
I say keep going. A lot of people want to watch you make movies. And if you're only doing it every, 2, 3 years, what's the issue? I mean, look at Spielberg. He's spitting them out yearly.
Yeah, he's a bit of a workaholic. That's what
Mhm.
happens when he gets like 2 movies in a year, is like when he's doing like a big effects heavy movie and it's in post production, he's like, "Oh, let me go shoot this other movie real quick." Like, that's what happened with he did Warhorse because Tintin was in post production. He did The Post because Ready Player One was in post production.
Jurassic Park and Schindler's.
Yeah, I think he did the same thing with War of the Worlds in Munich. So,
Good stuff.
is there anything else about the tragedy of Macbeth before we move on to The Counselor?
No, this is yeah, just everything we've said. It's really, really solid. I think, yeah, just give it a shot and watch the movie with the subtitles so you know what's going on. And yeah, completely different from an A24 movie, completely different from a Coen brother movie. So if you're fans of either, then give this one a shot. It's definitely different, but it's a great film.
I, I'm gonna give out a recommendation. It's the only other version of Macbeth I've seen on in film, even though there's quite a few. Like there's the Fassbender one, and I think Roman Polanski did one as well as Orson Welles, and I think those are more kind of bigger, lavish productions. But Akira Kurosawa's version, Throne of Blood, which kind of changes the story up because it takes place in like 16th or 17th century Japan, is
Mm.
a phenomenal film, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, Orson Welles. Was that Throne of Blood?
Throne of Blood, yeah. Akira Kurosawa, Toshiro Mifune.
Nice. Yeah, lots of iterations. We also have the stage play from Professor X doing it.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of iterations. Macbeth, the Fassbender one, is out on HBO Max, which is where I saw the next movie that we're going to talk about.
Yep. I did as well. And I don't know what your thoughts are on this movie. I will say thank you that you agreed to cover this one, and sorry if you didn't like it. I had heard now this movie has a cult following. There are people who love this movie, and then there are people who like hate this movie. And I saw this when it came out to rent and didn't really like it, but then I kept hearing people saying like, "Oh, it's so bananas and crazy. You got it's just out there." And so I was like, "Well, they have the extended cut." So I decided to watch the extended cut of this movie just to see if like
Oh,
it gave me any more appreciation. And I'm ultimately my feelings on this movie are kind of the same feelings I had with House of Gucci. This movie either needed to be about 90% better or 50% more crazy because I don't think it's either. There's like crazy stuff in here, but it's not like crazy enough for me to be like, oh, well, that was so bananas. It's just fun to watch.
yeah, this movie was, I don't know. I don't I don't remember it because I know I watched it or tried to watch it in theaters. I don't remember it at all. And then rewatching it, it's not as bad as I thought people were gonna say. As people were saying, I thought it's very, very clunky because this is
Yes.
about the counselor who's a lawyer and doesn't have a name. They just call him the
Mhm.
counselor.
I do
It's
kind of
played by
like that he's just
yeah,
called the counselor. That's kind of cool.
played by Michael Fassbender, and he has his clients and stuff, but he gets himself involved in drug trafficking, and then that sort of gets him in trouble. And he has a good life. He's now engaged to Penelope Cruz, who he's in love with, but now because of this, which the movie Friday is over $200. You know, like the whole concept is like it's $200 that they need, or otherwise they're gonna die. Well, in this
Mhm.
one, it was all over $400 because Michael Fassbender helped get
Rosie
his clients.
Perez's son out of,
Yeah, and because of
jail.
that tie, now he has to be on the run from the Mexican mafia.
The cartel. But
The
here's my
cartel.
biggest thing. I get, like, what happens sort of in the after effects, but, like, I never know what the drug deal is. I never know why
No.
Cameron Diaz's character wants to double cross them other than she just wants to opportunity to make some money. And the scenes are just feel like they're just stitched together of people having meaningless conversations that go nowhere. Like, is it even driving the plot? And I
No.
know this was written by Cormac McCarthy, who is a celebrated writer. He wrote the book No Country for Old Men, which won the Oscar for Best Picture when the Coens adapted it. I think he won the Pulitzer for The Road. He won some big award for The Road, which became a movie version itself. So he's a celebrated and honored author. But that's what this movie feels like. It feels like this should have been a book because I feel like there's stuff stitched together to try to condense it down to a movie time running, or it very much feels like a first draft that didn't get edited. Like someone, and this is an issue a lot of times when writers try to become like the voice of a movie. Like this is kind of the issue with a lot of the Fantastic Beasts movies too. Is like it's kind of like there's a lot going on, but it doesn't make a cohesive story really. It's like this either needed to be extended into a novel or someone needed to come in there and do some rewrites on the script. To tr-
Yeah, the dialogue is what just really makes this movie cruddy. The story itself is, it's all over the place. It does come together. It is like a movie where you have these stories over here, and it all comes together and means something. But when you hear the story over here, there's no resolution. When you hear the story over here, there's no resolution. Like, uh, who's the other Hispanic guy that comes in? John Leguizamo. I mean,
yeah,
that
what is
whole
that scene
scene
with him and Dean Norris?
meant nothing. It meant nothing. All you did was tell us about the canisters and, what goes inside, but there's no resolution to that. So why even have that scene?
And every scene with Fassbender and Javier Bardem is cringy. Is like it's gross. Like
Yeah.
they're just saying gross. Well, Fassbender mostly is just listening. Like everything coming out of Javier Bardem's mouth is just gross, and
Yeah.
it's
And
like
what's the point?
what is the point of these conversations? Like I know who Javier Bardem, he's like the go between for the deal, right?
Mhm.
But like other than that, what is the point of these scenes other than look how wild Javier Bardem's hair is, and he's just being cringy and kooky.
What did the retelling of the scene of Cameron Diaz's vagina on the hood of his car, what does that do for the film in any way?
I think that's where people are like, "Well, this movie's just friggin' crazy," right? Because that's really the only scene in the movie where I can see where people are, like, saying this movie's bananas. Because like, I don't think this movie's bananas. I think this movie just is a lot of stuff going on that doesn't come quite together really or in an interesting way. It's just scenes of actors walking into frame and having dialogue, like and all this talent in this movie, this should be a good movie. It looks good. It's shot by Ridley Scott. It's written by Cormac McCarthy. You've got Michael Fassbender, Penelope Cruz, Javier Bardem, Brad Pitt, Cameron Diaz. You even have good actors who just show up in here briefly, like John Leguizamo and Dean Norris and Ruben Blades. Like
Rosie Perez.
Rosie Perez. Like, this movie should be good. And I don't know if it's because I know why Ridley Scott wanted to do this movie is because for years he had tried to get McCarthy's book Blood Meridian adapted and put on the screen. So I guess when he saw that he had a screenplay open, he snatched it. And I don't know if maybe just everyone was like, well, he's a celebrated author. I guess this is a good movie. Like I feel like
Yeah.
someone should have went in and then been like, okay, we need to like tighten some of this up. And like, why is Fassbender wanting to do this deal? Is it just because he wants to be greedy? Does he really need the money? Like,
No, he doesn't. I don't. Yeah, it is just to be greedy. I mean, it seems like he just kind of likes the life that Javier Bardem sort of leads, which is, lavish, and I think that's what he wants. He was acting his balls off, though. Michael Fassbender. He was trying in this film.
oh yeah, everyone is trying. I don't think anyone's really sleepwalking in this movie. And I thought maybe he was in this lead because he had worked with Ridley on Prometheus, but apparently this was like a contract negotiation with Fox because he also did the Assassin's Creed movie.
Yeah.
But maybe that was also like, okay, I'll do this movie because I just worked with Ridley on Prometheus. So
yeah. I would love the scenes with him and Brad because it's the longest dialogue scenes that there are, and it's the ones that he does start to like cry in mostly. He like it's such a it's all simple dialogue and simple, chatter, but it like I don't know, those are the scenes that Fassbender really just dives into, except for the last one with the Mexican boss, the cartel boss,
yeah.
obviously. That was a big scene for him. But yeah, he has like a lot of crying scenes in this movie, probably more than he's ever had.
Yeah, and at least with the Brad Pitt scenes, there's the foreshadowing of things that are gonna happen. So at least there
Mhm.
is there's a little bit of resolution with those scenes, even though it does feel like they're just having meaningless chat. But at least like all the things Brad Pitt says come to happen
Mhm. Yeah.
to somebody in the movie.
Yeah. Um, there's a couple of crazy murders in this movie.
There is, and maybe that's the other thing that people think is bananas because Brad Pitt gets his head stuck on whatever device. And I don't even know if it was Brad Pitt that was describing that or that was actually one of the Javier Bardem scenes of like how he's executed. And even
Yeah.
the drug cartel guy, the Rosie Perez's son, like that wire across the highway.
Oh yeah.
And maybe that's another thing that people are like, wow, this movie is just bonkers. I just don't feel like it's bonkers enough. I feel like there's like
Yeah.
shades of bonkerness. And like I feel like they either needed, if they were gonna go that route, they needed to just go full in on it and just be completely crazy with the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't yeah, it's not bonkers. It's just clunky. It doesn't it's a lot, it's a lot of humps you have to get over to finally get to your destination. It just takes you on wild rides and unnecessary turns, but it's definitely not as bad as some movies out there. Um Michael Fassbender and Brad Pitt have worked together in a couple of movies. You know which ones?
Well, Inglorious Bastards for sure. That was kind of Fassbender's like
Introduction.
introduction, at least to Americans.
Hmm. And
What was the other one they did together?
12 Years a Slave.
That's right. Brad Pitt's briefly in there because he was a
Yeah.
producer on it. He's like the nice white guy.
Yeah. Which also probably like kind of mirrored him giving money to the project. Like, oh, look at the nice white guy giving money to the black project. That's him. Um, yeah, and then also Rosie Perez and Javier Bardem acted in a movie called Perdita Durango.
Okay. Well, Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz are husband and wife. They were in Vicky Cristina Barcelona together, and they both have been in previous McCarthy adaptations. Javier Bardem, of course, winning the Oscar for No Country for Old Men. But Penelope Cruz was in All the Pretty Horses, which is also based
Right.
off a McCarthy book.
Yeah. She was pregnant during this movie.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So they were going to have a baby. Yeah. So that's
Wonder why
interesting.
he didn't play the counselor. I mean, Fassbender's
How,
good, but he could have done it too. But maybe they wanted him to be more crazy. Like, let's have him play the crazy guy.
and have them be like a couple?
Yeah,
Okay.
I could have seen him in the role, but
Oh.
he's an actor who can go wild and over the top. I guess
He says that is. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess Fassbender, you don't really see that in his style of acting.
Mm-hmm. Javier's hair was modeled after
Brian Grazer,
yeah,
the producer.
Grazer.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. It is. That's his hairdo. He's a producing partner with Ron Howard.
Yeah, Ron
He
Howard,
worked
right.
a lot with Ron Howard.
Yeah. But overall, I thought this was fine. Despite the humps and the clunkiness, I thought the movie moved pretty well. Uh, Cameron Diaz and Penelope Cruz are both pretty ladies to look at in the movie, and I mean, besides that one weird, wild scene, it makes no sense with her
Right?
on the
What was?
hood.
I don't even know. That's just weird.
Yeah.
And apparently she had an accent because I think her character is supposed to be from like Argentina or somewhere. But apparently test audiences hated it, and so she had to redub the whole movie with her regular voice.
I kind of want to see that version now.
Maybe that's the wilder version of the movie too, but there are people who like love this, like Guillermo del Toro loves this movie.
Says it's his favorite movie.
So
It's one of director Guillermo del Toro's favorite movie.
I guess I just don't get it. I don't think it's trash. I don't think it's trash. Like it's a well made enough, like it looks good, right? But I just don't think I don't know. It just when it finally comes together, I guess I just don't care at that point. Like I'm like
Oh yeah,
I was just bored for the first hour to 90 minutes of this movie, and now I just don't care.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you kind of know what's happening and what's going to come, especially because in the dialogue, that's what is said. Is like Brad Pitt's like, your life is you running from now on, and your loves who you've had in your life will be no more, and like all of that shit happens, and then even Brad Pitt gets his comeuppance, his demise, which is so weird. It's like, what did Brad do?
Well, so right, Cameron Diaz double crosses, gets the money and the drugs, but then the cartel get the shipment back, so she steals the banking information from him
Oh,
to
right, yeah.
I guess that she has him killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cause
Yeah.
yeah, he would have gotten away had she not pursued further, but she wasn't done.
No.
Because I
No.
guess the cartel wasn't after Brad Pitt, because I guess he was the middleman.
Yeah.
And they really
Yeah.
weren't after Javier Bardem. Like, he's killed accidentally. Like, they were supposed to just kidnap him.
Right. Yeah. Dude, even his death is crazy. The way the camera angle on that was just so nuts. But maybe Guillermo likes it because of the cheetahs. He loves creatures. So he's like,
That
oh,
could be part of it.
love the
And maybe he
cheetahs.
just enjoys the crazier aspects of it, or is like it's what it's saying about violence in our society. I don't know. There are people who could passionately defend this movie and probably make good points about it. I just couldn't get into it, and I tried. I was like, I'm gonna try this time and see if I can get something out of this that I didn't get the first time I watched it. And even watching the longer cut, I was like, no, it just feels like this movie needed to like get a polish or like a second look at that script before they shot it.
Yeah,
Or
but as
Cormac should have just done this as a book because it probably would have come together a little bit more.
with Ridley being as a touted director, how could he not like know this was coming? Like how did he not know that it was not going to do well and be great? I know nobody ever sets out to make a bad film, but he's a great filmmaker.
He is, but he does have a lot of movies like this in his filmography that are just kind of fine, and sometimes those are more his direct for hire jobs. And maybe he just wanted to do something with that material. Maybe he was just, oh, it's Cormac McCarthy. Maybe everyone just wasn't like realizing what the issue was because they just love him as a writer.
Um, on the spoilers here on IMDb, it says that the sidewalk death scene was scaled back because it was deemed too violent, and the full scene can be seen in the longer unrated version. Is that the version you saw?
That is the version I watched.
So was it really aggressive?
That's the Brad Pitt scene, right?
Yeah, I was trying to stick away from that, but as far as like a
Well, it's
spoiler goes,
okay.
but
We do spoilers here unless we're talking like about a brand new movie.
yeah.
Uh, and this is almost 10 years old now. There's like blood everywhere, and then when they go to pick up his body, like his head like comes off.
Yeah. Yeah. And we got to see the fingers, but no head coming off.
Okay. Well, maybe they were just like, "Oh, I don't want to see Brad Pitt die like that." Though I don't know
Uh,
now with like the recent news about him. Some people may feel okay something bad
what
happening to him.
what happened now?
Angelina Jolie has come out and said that he was abusive to her and the children.
Yeah. Well, there was that thing on the plane that happened a couple years ago that
Yeah.
I'm sure has, yeah. I guess he's a boozer and gets mad when
Hmm.
he.
So hopefully he's trying to be a better person and stay sober.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
But
Cool.
do you have anything else to say about this movie?
Yeah, I love the people in it. Brad Pitt's one of my favies. I love Penelope Cruz. I like Edgar Ramirez. I think he's a great actor.
Oh, that's
Who,
right. He's the priest. Yeah, see, like
yeah,
even like these know nothing roles, they got big name or at least recognizable actors, and it's like I don't know. It
I've
just feels
never
like a missed opportunity to me. Like this should have been in my wheelhouse, and it's not.
I've never been a fan of Javier Bardem, and this movie is the reason why. He
Yeah,
does
this is.
these characters, and I'm not a fan. I loved him in The Good Boss last year, where yeah, he was the boss of a plant, and took care of all of his employees and stuff. I really really like that performance.
Do you not
But
like
yeah,
him as a Bond villain?
no, I
You
hate
didn't
him
like
as
him
the
as the
Bond.
Bond guy, Bond bad guy in Skyfall?
No, 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 no.
Okay. You
No,
don't
no,
even like
no.
his Oscar-winning performance?
Mm-mm,
Okay,
mm-mm.
he's just not your guy then.
No, he's not. I hate him in Vicky Cristina Barcelona. Just get out of here trying to be all suave. You ain't. You ain't.
Oh, Shots
Uh,
fired at Javier.
yeah, not suave. But, you know, he's with Penelope Cruz, so there you go.
He must got something.
Yeah, so, I mean, whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know the scene where I think they're at the racetrack or whatever, and that Hispanic guy comes up to him and talks to him with him and his wife. The guy
Yeah.
kind of looks like Bad Bunny. Again, another scene that just didn't, was there for no real reason.
Yep.
I just nothing paid off from that, and it goes again with the clunkiness that we've been talking about. But
Yeah, I feel like this was, and it could be that Cormac McCarthy is a writer, so that's a whole different type of style of writing a novel or a short story, even compared to a screenplay. And I feel like there are things that normally would have gotten cut out, you know,
hmm
because of it being a movie that got stuck in there. So it feels like a random passage in a book that like is just in there
hmm
instead of like, because yeah, like what was the point of that scene? Like that character never shows back up. I mean,
never.
is this to establish that he's a shady guy? Like that Fassbender's kind of a shady lawyer?
Yeah,
Like that's
I
it, I
don't.
guess.
Yeah, makes no sense. But yeah, a lot of this movie didn't make a lot of sense. But you know, it has some cool stuff in it, things that are memorable. The murders are definitely memorable. Um, and the characters, the actors, those are. But yeah, I think a lot of people, if you were to play a game like, unless we're good movie fans or whatever, but if you were to like, okay, let's name all of the Michael Fassbender's filmography or all of Brad Pitt's filmography, you would probably forget to put the counselor in it.
Oh, for sure, because especially Brad Pitt, because there's so many other movies that you would
Yeah,
know. And I would imagine most people, Fassbender, they would probably say all the X-Men movies he's in and the 2 Alien movies he did and Inglorious Bastards, probably.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, there's lots of other movies even Ridley Scott. Even you would do the same thing for Ridley Scott.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of movies people would be like, "Oh, he directed that?" I think, everyone's gonna go, "Oh yeah, Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator." And then it would probably get trickier depending on, like, how big of a film fan you are, knowing the filmography.
Yeah,
But, yeah, this is not his worst movie, but it's nowhere near his best either. I think the word you used for it is exactly what this movie is. It's fine. It
yeah,
exists. It has some talented people in it. It has some talented people involved in it, but for some reason, for me, the pieces don't fit together. So it's kind of just kind of a meh for me.
yeah. Agreed. Out of the two, Tragedy and Macbeth or The Counselor, what are you going for?
I would watch the tragedy of Macbeth so much more because it's definitely better. Well, it's better acted. The script is tighter. Of course, they're just basically using Shakespeare's play. I don't even know what they did as far as adapting it. And like there's more interesting stuff going on from a filmmaking perspective too. It's just overall it's the better movie in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely better than The Counselor. And of course, zero Oscar nominations for The Counselor.
This movie was reviled when it came out. Like it was torn apart. Like there were some reviewers who liked it, but for the most part its reputation was that it was a trashy, terrible film.
$25 million budget. Opening weekend it made 7.8 million. Uh the gross in just US and Canada was 17 million. Worldwide gross, however, 71 million.
So it did make its money back.
It made its money back, but
So
not
it's
in
not a
the States.
yeah, I think in the
Huge
States
flop.
it's perceived as a flop, even though I guess from a money standpoint it did make its money back. But I don't know how much
Yeah.
they spend in marketing too, so
Yeah. 5.4 on IMDb, and on Rotten Tomatoes, 34%. Audience
was
giving it 23.
oh, the audience gave it a lower score. Okay.
Usually it's higher, yeah.
Yeah, it's usually higher when the critics give it a low score, but yeah, I don't remember talking to anybody who saw it, like, that aren't film people that liked it either, like, so it wasn't like one of those cases where the critics and the mainstream audience weren't clicking. It's just overall, I don't think it's a movie people like. I know there are people who love it, but I think overall, I think a lot of people feel like it's a little clunky and weird, like we said.
Hmm.
But I don't think it goes into the weirdness enough to make it really weird. I think it's just clunky. That's the word for it. It's clunky
Yeah.
because yeah, I think this needed a rewrite. I think they needed, or it just needed to be a book instead of a movie.
Hmm.
Maybe a TV
Yeah.
series. Maybe it should have been a season, like a 8 to 10 episode series. Maybe 6.
Yeah, there you go. And each episode and part can be like, he works. It could be a Rosie Perez day. It could be a Brad Pitt day. Javier Bardem day. So, yeah, that I
In
can see that happening.
anything else on this movie that
No,
exists?
the Counselor.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Apologies for agreeing to
No,
watch The Counselor, a
no.
somewhat forgettable film. But we got to talk about a movie that fits for the time of the season since Halloween is upon us. So
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
appropriate.
And
And
Brendan Gleeson is in Tragedy and Macbeth, and right now he's out in a fantastic film called The Banshees of Inisherin. So
yeah.
if
So
you're a
before
fan
I
of
let you
Gleeson, go check that
go,
out.
since you live in Los Angeles, you get to go see all these buzzworthy movies that us low people don't get to see till later. What's worth seeing besides the Banshees of Inisherin?
Yeah, Banshees for sure. Tar is great with Kate Blanchett, which just got a wider release this weekend. And then a great movie by James Gray is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
That's um, in select theaters now, but will probably have a wider release. Is Armageddon Time,
Do you
and
think Kate Blanchett's gonna get her third Oscar?
I think she's definitely going to be nominated no doubt. So the three so far is Michelle Yeoh, Kate Blanchett, and Danielle Deadwyler for Till. Those are the three that are going to be
Okay. You don't think Viola's gonna get in?
for the Woman King. I don't know. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it yet. I'm still
Well,
behind on that one.
that it's awesome. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean
I
it's
would
the
put her
fact.
in there, but you're probably right. She probably doesn't have a good chance of being on that list.
Well, we still have some movies that are coming out that are going to have actresses.
Yeah,
Like
Michelle Williams might get
yeah,
in,
exactly. The
and
Fablemans, yeah.
or Carrie Mulligan or Zoe Kazan. Is that her name?
Kazan for She
Yeah,
Said, yeah,
or someone from Women Talking could get in.
yeah, yeah.
Though that could get overshadowed because it's more of an ensemble piece. Yeah.
Let's see what's going on in the actress race. Let's see if there's any. Michelle Yeoh, Margot Robbie for Babylon.
That's true. Yeah, that could happen. That's
Olivia
getting a late
Colman,
release.
yeah. Olivia Colman for Empire of Light.
Could happen. She's kind of like she's kind of become the Meryl Streep.
Naomi Ackie for I Want to Dance with Somebody, the Whitney Houston movie.
Oh yeah, maybe.
And then the two runners up after that are Emma Thompson for Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, and Ana de Armas for Blonde.
I don't see De Armas getting in. I haven't seen Blonde, but I think
No.
from its reputation in general, there's been a few people that liked it, but overall, I've heard it's not good. So I think that's kind of going to lose its run. And Emma Thompson, maybe, but I think that's a very unlikely, but
I
could
bet a Golden
happen.
Globe, but not an Oscar.
Yeah, that could happen. Because I don't
By
think
the way,
go ahead.
go ahead. No. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't think that movie made a big enough splash that it's gonna survive the award season because it went straight to a streaming service and
Hulu.
and it was liked, but I don't remember like people were really like saying they loved it. Like
It's been on a lot of top 10 lists for sure. It's gotten a lot of buzz, but yeah, it's not like a movie that we see on film Twitter people talking about a lot.
So I think
But
it's
by the
just
way,
gonna get lost in the shuffle.
yeah, I mean, it might. Emma Thompson has a lot of star power as it comes to acting, though. So she's like Olivia Colman, you know.
That's true.
But Viola Davis comes in at number 10 on this list for the
Well,
Woman
good.
King.
She
So
deserves it.
she's in the talk for sure.
Good. She
She's in
deserves
the
it.
talk. And then yeah, we still have Jennifer Lawrence for Causeway coming. Yeah, Zoe Kazan for She Said, but also Claire Foy and Rooney Mara for Women Talking, and Greta Gerwig for White Noise. So we still have some people coming through.
We'll have to just see what the reception is for all those as they come out.
Cool. All right, great. This was fun chatter.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for agreeing to watch these, especially The Counselor. Did you want to plug your channel or your shows or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Worth the View movies and all the things. I talk about a movie for about a minute, unless you know you're worthy of a little bit longer. But like Till, I talked about for almost 2 minutes. You know, some things are can't just be contained within a minute. But yeah, Worth the View movies and all the things. Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. I also do a little bit more over on TikTok, just fun little things like I posted about the storyline from The Nun to The Conjuring 3, you know, just because it's the horror season and, you know, what's your favorite movies there. And then also I'm going to be ranking on Halloween the Scream films. So that'll be exclusive to TikTok. So,
well, I already know what my number one is.
And everyone knows mine. So, but yeah, check it all out.
Cool. Well, thank
yeah,
you.
and also on the Fleming Film, what does he call it now? Fleming Film Talk or Fleming Movie Talk. We do that weekly with Rob Fleming, and you go on there a bunch and
yeah, I've been
chat
on there a
about
few
TV
times.
shows and movies and stuff. So go check all that out.
All right. I forgot. I don't guess you guys figured out what you're going to talk about next week, right?
Well, he wants to talk about DC movies now that.
Oh, that's right. He wanted to do another ranking because of Black Adam, which I have not seen yet. I'll probably see
We're gonna
after
go
spooky
tonight.
season's over and see if it's as bad or as good because it's, I guess, got a mixed reaction right now.
Yeah. I think we're going tonight, so we'll see. But yeah, I don't really want to redo the DC universe. You know, I mean, it's the same. Nothing's gonna change. It's the same.
Yeah.
Because since then, yeah, we talked about it. It's Black Adam, 1984,
And the Suicide
and the
Squad.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
So
I
the
guess
only thing that's gonna
yeah, I guess that's it, isn't it?
the Suicide Squad is just gonna go up the list. That's it. It's like you know, move the new movie up the list. So. Or Black Adam, who knows? But yeah, 1984 is. We don't even need to talk about it.
Such a disappointment.
Yeah,
because the first one was so good.
So good.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Always love having you on
Thanks
and
for
chatting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I want you to have a wonderful weekend and a safe and happy Halloween.
You too, buddy. We'll
Oh.
definitely be talking soon. Are you watching anything this weekend? Are you excited about? You gonna see The Good Nurse? You gonna
Probably not gonna
see?
watch The Good Nurse. I did already watch Wendell and Wild, and I thought it was great. I really enjoyed
Oh
it.
yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah,
It was a. I
I'm
can
excited
see
about
Jordan
that one.
Peele's contribution to it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can
Um,
tell.
I do want to see Wonder Wild, and then also All Quiet on the Western Front came out on Netflix
That's
too, so I want
right.
to see that.
Yeah, a
I want to see
remake.
that one also.
A
International
lot of
too.
stuff going on. I might check out Barbarian or Bodies, Bodies, Bodies this weekend.
Both very much recommended. Yeah, both great horror films. I mean, one's definitely on a different level than the other. Like Bodies, Bodies is like a lot of fun and a cool sort of thriller, scary movie, whereas Barbarian is just straight up horror.
Okay,
So it depends on what mood you're in.
gotcha.
But you Barbarian's unforgettable, so we'll
All
definitely
right.
be
Well,
chatting about that.
all right. Well, thank you again, and I want you to have
Thanks,
a
buddy.
wonderful weekend and
You
Halloween.
too. Yeah, you too. Be safe.
Thank you.